Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is currently waiting outside of a blood rave. It's Kai, aka Philly Trainer. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Mark. Thank you for having me.
How's the line?
It is pretty jumping right now. It's a lot of people out here. You know, we're all waiting, chilling, waiting to get in this party. You know.
Did you bring an extra change of clothes with you? Because it is a blood... you can't go home covered in blood, can you?
No, you can. You definitely can go home covered in blood. I mean, I am. I always do.
Oh, wow. That's bold.
That's more fun that way, right?
Yeah, just scare people walking down the street?
Yeah, I mean, hey, look. If you see somebody walking towards you with covered in blood down the street and you decide to walk towards them, that's your fault for whatever happens afterwards.
Imagine.
You should know better than to be walking towards somebody covered in blood. So all I'm saying is if you see me walking down the street covered in blood, I've just come from a blood rave that I have survived for a reason. So
you know what would be awesome? There are some tourists in Philly right now, and they just get lost, and they're driving around the city at night, and a couple hundred blood-covered people walk out of a building while they're sitting at a stoplight.
Yeah. You know what would be even better?
What?
As if they were coming out of Eastern State Penitentiary.
Just seeing that?
And just seeing that, like, a bunch of blood-soaked, covered demon people coming out of a old abandoned prison while you're sitting at the light parked, stopped. I think that would be perfect. That would be even better.
I wish we would have done those for those Comic-Cons that I worked with you in Philly. We should have done that. That should have been a Saturday night, sell tickets and go do that.
You know what they say, right?
What?
Never say never.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get it going, man. 2021. Blood rave, and then scare people.
Eastern State ain't going nowhere. So, it's been there for a while. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah.
All right, and so we're talking about Blade 2 today. I gave you an option of a few pretty good movies. How come you picked Blade 2? What kind of led you to want to do this one?
All right, so the reason I picked Blade 2 was, one, Wesley Snipes. All right, so for me as a kid growing up, Wesley Snipes was like one of the few black like action dudes that was like a box office draw and like really good at what he did. You know, and then when he came out with the first Blade, to me, that movie just blew my mind. And then the second one just took it up to the next step. So it's always held this like near and dear place in my heart, in terms of just action movies starring like a black lead.
When people talk about superhero movies too, they're like, oh yeah, Spider-Man kicked it off or X-Men kicked it off in 2000. I'm like, where's Blade at? I mean, 98.
Yeah.
You know, this movie, like Blade was an R-rated, like, box office success. It was a very successful movie. And I don't think it gets its due when it comes to leading the charge of comic book films.
Oh, not at all. Like, I think for two reasons. I think one of the main reasons is because at that time, there was no real push for the comic book, quote unquote comic book movie in the same way it is now. You know, back then you just had studios like buying, scripts from these companies or from these people who adapted them from these books. And they were just like, oh, this seems like a good story. Whereas now there's more of a push to bring the comic to the screen. Back then it was more or less like, let's get a good adaptation of this on screen and just see what happens. So back then, you didn't really look at it as a comic book movie, but it should definitely be considered the first or one of the first to really set off that kind of interest. And we want to see more of this. Like, there should definitely be more of these being made.
It was a pretty wise decision to go with vampires too, because 95 was Interview with the Vampire. And then you had From Dusk Till Dawn. So vampires were kind of hot in the 90s as well. So to release a half vampire, half human, like comic book where, unless I think you were in a comic book bubble, a lot of people didn't know Blade. I think a lot of people, it's like Deadpool. Like after Deadpool, people were like, yeah, I read Deadpool.
Exactly.
Like, no, you didn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's a really smart move too, because I mean, comics, they weren't cool in the 90s. It wasn't probably until Spider-Man was good, X-Men was good, but now it probably wasn't until the 2010s where SDCC, San Diego Comic-Con, and all this made comics cool. So I also think it was smart to release Blade, this badass ninja wiping out yuppie vampires. And so people weren't going, I'm going to a comic book movie. They're like, I'm going to go watch Wesley Snipes destroy some people.
Exactly. And then I think that's the major difference between then and now. Like even when you look at the worst but best comic book movie like made back then to me was Spawn, right? So you look at Spawn. Like as a kid, that was an amazing movie to me. Like I didn't go into Spawn as a kid, like with the same critical friggin' eye that I have now for movies. When I went into Spawn as a kid, I went into it like wanting to see the comic book that I read like on the screen. But at the same time, I didn't think of it as a comic book movie. I just thought of it as an action movie that just so happens to be a comic book, And with Blade, I think you had that same effect, whereas we didn't watch Blade thinking of it as a comic book movie. And, like you said, comics weren't popular in the 90s unless you were one of those kids like me who was an art kid, who was into comics and who was into, manga and anime. So unless you were into that world, like you said, you didn't know who Blade was. You didn't know he really existed. But then when that movie came out, it piqued the interest of, one, that property and that character, and then two, what more can we do with these comic book movies? So the fact that after Blade launched or kickstarted that kind of interest in the comic book movie, and then from that point, that's when you saw the increase of them being made and being optioned to be made. So it definitely is one of those things where it was smart, for Marvel to release the movie the way they did it. Miramax, I believe, was the studio that produced the movie. So it was smart across the board because it just brought Blade into the limelight. Then you started seeing him on the Spider-Man cartoon, which was pretty cool. So yeah, man, it has such a near and dear spot in my heart as just such a good, badass action movie.
Do you know why I watched Spawn?
Why?
Because I was a big John Leguizamo fan. I had no idea who Spawn was, right? I was like, oh, hey, it's Spawn. What? I just read X-Men comics. I was a huge X-Men nerd. I loved the cartoon. That was all I was into. I only cared about X-Men. But then I was like, hey, John Leguizamo's playing a clown in a movie. I was like, sweet. So I went to watch Spawn because of John Leguizamo, not because it was a comic. So it's kind of so fun. That explains the 90s, right?
Right, exactly. And and that goes to show. That was my cat. So sorry.
My cat walked in the room the same time that happened, actually. My cat Stella's right in here right now next to me. So I think they're communicating, man.
Yeah, he's like knocking stuff over. But if you look at the movie industry, I guess you could say in the 90s, where it was more about the movie star.
Jim Carrey making 20 million. Will Smith making 20 million.
Exactly. It was a different kind of era in filmmaking in itself. So, like you say, you went because of John Leguizamo. Like I went to see because of Wesley Snipes, not because it was a Marvel adaptation. Whereas now it's the reverse. It's like, a lot of these movies have big names in them now, but you're literally going not because of the name. You're going because of the universe that has been created because of the almighty Feige, right? So when you go to these movies, you're going to see the universe, which then creates comic book fans. So it's like this weird flip-flop that's kind of happened where we used to go for the actors, and now we're going to see the action in the comic book come to life, so to say.
Yeah, there's very few of those actors left that can draw. Like I was working in a movie theater in '99, and I remember Runaway Bride opened, and that is just the most bland romantic comedy. But it had Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. That movie with inflation, I think it made 400-500 million world. It did Marvel money. That's how big Julia Roberts was in the 90s.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was just great. But also, I want to say, I'm so happy you picked Blade 2 because I went out and I bought the Blu-ray. No, I bought a 4-pack and then it didn't have any extras. So I'm like, crap. So I went and bought the Blade 2 Blu-ray. And there are 3 DVD commentaries on it. There's one with Guillermo del Toro, Then there's one with Guillermo del Toro and a producer. And then there's one, which is really sad, because I don't know how much you know about Blade Trinity, but there's a commentary with Wesley Snipes and David Goyer, who had an infamous falling out on Blade Trinity. So, like, they got into it, like, supposedly Wesley Snipes choked Goyer. Goyer hired bikers to keep Snipes away from him. They wouldn't communicate. They only communicated via sticky notes. But it made me really sad, dude, because they're sitting there together laughing and having a good time, talking about Blade 2, talking about Blade 3. And I'm like, these guys are going to have a massive falling out. So,
yeah.
But I'll tell you, though, I pretty much know everything about Blade 2 now. I don't know how, you know what? I love knowing everything about Blade 2 now because, you know, I know they went to Prague, right, to film this to save money.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah.
And I kind of love that. It's like people coming to Atlanta now. You know, a lot of big movies, which helped me greatly working in the film industry, you come to Atlanta if you want to fill a stadium scene. If you need 2,000 extras, you come to Atlanta. You don't go to New York or L.A. You know, they filled up in Pittsburgh with Dark Knight Rises with extras because you could pay them $50. You don't have to pay them $100.
Exactly.
But in Prague, these extras in that massive club scene were working for $18 a day. Wow. And they had 8,000 people apply, and they only picked 1,000 to make $18 a day. And then they shot in there for 5 days. I don't know. And they did, like, these extras in this movie. I love that dancing scene. Normally when I watch, like, you watch a lot of movies, right? And you notice the extras. Like, I hate medieval peasant extras. I think they're the worst. But watching this one in the Blood Rave, the extras are awesome in these movies. I love the extra club. Like, they had to keep, so in this movie, there's no music playing in this giant, what is it, the House of Pain. There's no music playing. They had to fake all this energy. I don't know. I love this scene. They brought it. Like, there was a lot of energy going on.
And you know what's funny? I like how that kind of became a thing in the Blade movies where you were like there was always this scene where it was like in the first one, that opening scene where he goes to the club and he just starts taking everybody out in the club and they're all dancing and starts raining blood and he's throwing his friggin', boomerang knife and he's cutting everybody up. And then in the second one where they're in the warehouse club, you know what I mean? So it was like something you were looking forward to seeing and you kind of expected to happen in the Blade movies. It was like that scene where he's just going to come in and he's just going to swoop down and there's going to be a bunch of bloodsuckers and he's just going to take them all out in the most stylish way possible.
And I gotta tell you, that Blood Rave scene for Blade and, the DJ putting his arms out in the air, that moment on the trailer, I bet you that moment in the trailer brought in $10 million just because it was so iconic. And then in Blade 2, there's that scene where he's running through the tunnels and he has both arms outstretched with the guns, with the Reapers following him.
Oh, yeah.
These movies know how to make trailer moments, for sure. Like, there's some really badass moments. And also, in the House of Pain, we're going to jump all over the place. If you're listening to this, you've definitely watched Blade 2. And I love how in the House of Pain, I always thought about this, but I learned from Del Toro in the commentary, in the House of Pain, they're dancing, and then the camera goes underneath to the sewers where the Reapers are waiting.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is there a sewer underneath this place? And Del Toro's like, I don't know. He's like, but he came up with a story where so many humans are murdered in the House of Pain that at the end of the night, they just hose down the floor and they throw the bodies and they hose the blood into that sewer. So it's easier cleanup. So for years, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And it's funny because now I'm like, I have to get this commentary Blu-ray now because I just have the old school DVD,
Wesley Snipes is so funny on this, man. I love him on this commentary. He's talking about how he almost brought in Michael Jackson to be a vampire pimp, but the scheduling didn't work out. He's talking about, and he also talked about how he's like, man, he's like, for the third one, he's like, I need a bevy of bitches. He's like, Blade's got to get laid. He keeps talking about how he needs a girlfriend. And then he's also talking about, what I love, he explains his character in this. I don't know how recently you've watched the first one. But in the first Blade, he had a really hard time with the character. He was more uptight. And then he said in this one, he's looser. That scene where... that motorcycle henchman scene. Motorcycle henchmen are never successful. I hate motorcycle henchmen. Never.
Never.
But when he parks next to his car and almost hits it and, blows it a kiss, and then he smiles at Ron Perlman when he has the gun on him. So what he said was at the end of Blade, when he drinks that blood from, he uses that blood to kind of make himself healthy again so he can fight Deacon Frost, who they also make fun of. They're like, we had a more formidable villain in this one, not just Deacon Frost, Stephen Dorff. Well, I love Stephen Dorff in that movie, but he said he was more comfortable.
I thought he didn't do a bad job.
I mean, I love yuppie vampires. I love the idea of young yuppie vampires. Like that's just it makes me happy.
But it makes sense. It makes sense though. It feels like, because if you look at like Interview with the Vampire, for example, all those vampires were like aristocracy. With the exception of who was
Pitt?
Was it what's his face? Antonio Banderas?
Oh yeah.
I think all of those vampires were like from upper class living, so it only makes sense to bring that to modern times with like super yuppie vampire kids. You know what I mean?
Super high tech. They were using that computer technology in '98. And what's really interesting? David Goyer and Wesley Snipes on the commentary were talking about how in the first Blade, that party seems ultra exclusive. There's probably 100 people there, would you say?
Yeah.
So it's like the yuppie of the yuppie vampire going to this blood rave. But then they said,
1%.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. And then they said this one in Blade 2 is more of all the vampires come to it. It's not exclusive.
Yeah.
And Wesley Snipes is like, man, like it should have been more exclusive. Then the producer's like, we can't afford to dress 1,000 Bulgarians in Prada. And then they had a good laugh about that. But I thought that was a pretty interesting talk. Like you had this really hyper exclusive one, but then you had a more open party in the second one. I don't know. It's pretty cool listening to Snipes talk about all this.
And also, I think that goes back to what you were saying about the character from the first and second one. He was a lot more relaxed, like more playful in the second Blade versus in the first one, where he was so serious, and that whole story in the first one was more about him finding out about his past and, him being so angsty about it. Whereas in the second one, he's more in tune to who he is and who he wants to be. And, so it comes across in the way he plays the character. Like you said, he's a lot more goofy, a lot more funny, a lot more jokey, a lot more just relaxed as a character. And that's something that I enjoyed about Wesley Snipes, his portrayal of the character. Like what he brought to Blade is iconic in a way where, like, yes, they did the TV show thing, but I can never get into the TV show because I wanted Wesley Snipes to be Blade. I love his sticky fingers, but I just wanted it to be Wesley. You know what I mean? Because of what he brought to the character, nobody else I felt could do that the same way he did it. And that's another thing I feel like gets downplayed a lot too, is Wesley Snipes' ability as an actor. He's a really good actor, and he's played some very good dramatic stuff.
And then look at White Men Can't Jump. I mean, that's like a comedy drama. Like
exactly.
The dude has range for sure.
He has serious range, and I think a lot of that. And I mean, it's kind of like the double-edged sword because of he is a trained martial artist. And I think unfortunately that overshadows his ability to be a dramatic actor. Because if you look at someone like a Denzel, Denzel is known for his dramatic acting and his just range of being deep but also being a versatile actor, whereas someone like, if you look at Michael Jai White, I don't look at Michael Jai White for his acting. I look at him for his ability to kick ass on screen and just be a badass,
Blood and Bone and Triple Threat. I don't know if you saw. Have you seen Triple Threat? It's him.
I did see Triple Threat. Oh, dude. It's so wait no.
I love it.
Not for nothing.
I love it for what it is.
The movie. For what it is, and it's so hard for me to not watch movies with such a critical perspective sometimes. But like, oh my God, the acting in that movie at points, it just takes me so out of it. But I still love the movie for what it is. But
Scott Adkins is my boy, man. But that wig that Scott Adkins has in the beginning of Triple Threat, I went, I went, oh no. But then, all right, watching Iko Uwais square off against Scott Adkins or Michael Jai White, that's all I want. Like, so once those scenes happen, I'm like, I don't care about the dialogue. I don't care about the plot.
Exactly. It doesn't matter anymore.
And you know what's really funny? Michael Bisping's one of my favorite MMA fighters, and my wife is a big fan of MMA. We watch it together. She's a big Michael Bisping fan. And in Triple Threat, he throws a high kick, and she looks at me and she goes, "You throw high kicks just like that, like really ugly." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Meg." But it's interesting watching Iko and Scott and Michael throw high kicks, and then Michael Bisping, who could probably beat them all up, throwing a high kick, and it was painful. But then my high kicks. I mean, I'm just happy she thinks I can throw a high kick, actually, when it comes to that. No, but I also love what you said about Snipes, man. Like, there's a reason he was a massive box office draw, and I think that's a good point. With Denzel, he became an action star later with Book of Eli and Equalizer. Liam Neeson started with Taken. But then you look at Stallone, Snipes, Schwarzenegger, I guess once you get pigeonholed as that action star, it's hard to kind of reel back because everyone sees you in a certain light. Exactly.
And then that's, I think, unfortunately, the downfall of most like late 80s, early 90s action stars. Like their life on cinema, because of how different action movies are filmed nowadays, you know, they don't have that same appeal to the younger generation. And then they don't have that same draw that they did, you know, as when we were coming up. Cause that's what that's all we cared about when we went to these movies. We wanted to see crazy action, crazy explosions. We didn't care for dialogue too much. It was like, whatever, you know, if it was good, that was a plus. But if it wasn't too great, hey, who cares? As long as something explodes, right?
I wanted someone standing in the middle of a field with a machine gun and to kill 75 people without being shot once.
Without being shot once, or even having to reload at all, you know? So, and you know what's funny? It takes me back to remember when Last Action Hero came out. Like,
yeah. People did not know what to make of that, right? People had no idea.
No idea. But what was so funny, what was so great about that movie is how it was spoofing what it was. Like, but it was still taking itself seriously.
Yep.
Like, it was so funny because it was literally the spoof of, like, it was the Expendables before the Expendables.
Yeah.
And, like, comedy format, in a sense. You know what I mean?
The angry captain, the rogue police officer.
Yeah, the guy who's always, like, on target and never misses a shot. Like, it was taking all these tropes and, like, making fun of them, but the movie took itself super serious.
Yeah.
You know, with the kid and him loving Arnold's character and all that. And it's just so funny to see how now when we think of an action movie, we want a good script and a good, you know, we want good, you know, cinematography and, you know, not too much action, but enough action, but not a little bit of action, but not a lot of action either. So it's just so funny how the kind of views have changed into, you know, what we used to like and what we like now as it relates to action flicks.
And it's such it's such a worldwide market that, remember back in the day, the Russians were the villains, the Chinese were the villains, the cartels were the villains. So now when we're making these movies, it's like, well, we can't make the Chinese character a villain because they're a massive market.
It has to go to market.
Yeah. And like we can't.
Go to China.
Yeah, we don't want to piss off the Russians. So I think that's why comic book movies have really helped, and I don't think a lot of people have touched on this. The villain is a dark elf or a purple guy with, you know, a chin that looks like a ball sack. It's just they won't anger a certain of the portion of the population that you could cost you box office.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Thanos. That line. I don't know, is that good or bad that Star-Lord made fun of his chin? Is it too self-aware?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Because you know what? How could you not though? Like, let's be realistic. If I was in that moment, I would probably have the same reaction.
Yeah.
Like, your chin looks like balls. Like, come on, how could you not have that reaction if you were to see Thanos for the first time? You know. After
my fear, and if I knew I was done, I'd throw it in there. Oh, do you want to know something else cool I learned from the commentary? I was like, you wonder how he has so much money in this movie. I mean, these setups that he has servers in his warehouse, which means he's running a lot of power. And he said that,
and he had the lights and all that.
So he said when he killed Deacon Frost, he stole all of his stuff. Wesley Snipes. He's like, yeah, after I killed Deacon, I just robbed the place.
Nice.
And he said that funded him. I love that Wesley Snipes said that. And also, Wesley Snipes was mad. He didn't like the soundtrack at all. I think he liked the Massive Attack Most Def song when there's like that Reservoir Dogs moment when they're all walking into the House of Pain. But he
that
said,
was my jam. I love that song.
Yeah, I mean, I love the combo of them. Like, I heard it again. I'm like, I might just go buy that or put it on my Spotify list. But he wanted the main vampire, Damascus,
Mm-hmm.
he wanted, like, so in his room, there's a lot of orchestra and all this stuff, but Wesley Snipes said, we should have just had James Brown playing in his room. Like this kind of, so he's not just this, I just thought it was funny. Wesley Snipes is like, you shouldn't have been listening to classical music. You should have been listening to James Brown. And
no, that's funny though. I mean, that's interesting though, because it really shows though how much he cared about the character and how much he cared about the story. So, I really hope when they do this reboot of Blade that he plays some type of part in it. Like, I think Mahershala Ali is a great person
actor.
to take. He's a great actor. And I definitely think he can pull it off. But I just hope they have him in the. I hope they don't pull a Hellboy.
Cover like the latest Hellboy.
Oh, that was horrible.
That crushed my soul.
It crushed my heart.
It really hurt. Well, I was kind of looking. I've been thinking about Mahershala's back catalog, I guess, of films. So you think about what Luke Cage, Moonlight, Green Book.
Green Book.
I just don't a bunch of other roles too. He was in a show called Alcatraz. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do remember Alcatraz.
But
I do remember Alcatraz.
I think he'll be able to blend the humor in there. I can see, because with Mahershala, he has that knowing look in his eyes. When you think about him, he's in on it. So I think he'll add something pretty cool to Blade. That's perfect casting, though.
What was the movie he did? Was it in Divergent?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, Hunger Games.
He was in one of those movies. He was in a movie. I can't think of it.
Yeah, he was with Katniss. It was Hunger Games, I think, because I worked on those. And he was on the Hunger Games movies. 2, 3, and 4, I think. 3 and 4.
Where he was playing like a more serious kind of villainy type role, right?
He was a good guy that worked with Katniss. He might have been in Divergent.
I see. Yeah. So there was something he was in recently. It eludes me right now, but and I'm basing it off of that. He played a villain, and it was a recent movie. It's on the tip of my tongue. He was a villain. He was chasing somebody, as villains do.
Oh, no, he was in Alita.
Alita.
Yeah.
And so the energy that he brought to Alita, like, I definitely feel like, okay, I could see him doing a Blade thing, if he brings that kind of same energy, that he brought to Alita.
I hope they don't. Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was going to say, I definitely hope, like I said, they don't Hellboy it and kind of just, not even make any nods or mentions to the previous cast members or, Snipes and,
Whistler.
Chris Christopherson.
Yeah. I think they will. I don't think Marvel's smart. They're not dumb. They're gonna think this thing through and brain trust it and get it done to make it right. I just hope they don't. All right. So there's so many sunglasses in Blade. And it's pretty interesting how the henchmen, the evil villain henchmen in the beginning of Blade, they're all wearing sunglasses. Which, at night, which kind of inside.
Is it necessary?
Not necessary. I just hope they don't put those circular lenses on Mahershala like they did in Alita.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like those circular ones. Like Bram Stoker's Dracula, like in the 90s, you know how they had the circular?
Yeah.
I hope they don't put those.
The, old sciencey looking kind of. Yeah.
Give him cool glasses. So Wesley Snipes had 4 pairs of glasses in this movie. 4 variations. Give him those. Give him something cool. Because Blade has to wear sunglasses.
And Blade, and this is another thing that I loved about Blade was how he was a stylish fucking superhero.
Yeah, he was.
Pardon my French, but he was stylish as hell. He was like, he always had he was the Matrix before the Matrix. You know what I mean? He had the black leather and the buckles and he was like a Rob Liefeld like drawing on screen with all the buckles and the harnesses and the the guns with the like 18 different bullet, holes in them. So like he was always stylish. He brought a lot to that character. That's what I love about Blade. That's what I love so much about what Wesley did with that character, what he brought to the character. Because every time after you saw Blade, be it on a different medium, be it cartoon or television, you expected him to look a certain way. And when he didn't look a certain way, you were like, wait, why is he bald? He should have like some dope design in his hair, and he should have some like crazy like bald fade, but he should have hair with like some dope design in the back and be tatted up, and all jacked.
And this was the 90s when those tattoos were badass. Like I
thought when tribal tats were like the thing.
Like barbed wire, stuff like that. I thought he had the baddest tattoos. I guess he goes to a barber. Does Whistler and Scud cut his hair?
I'm pretty sure Whistler cuts his hair.
Oh, we need that deleted scene, right?
Yeah, like that bonding moment of him like giving him a fresh fade and they talking about sports and like just like at the barbershop. When I go to the barbershop, it'll be that same energy between them,
Scud doesn't cut hair.
Scud barely washes his hair. Like even back then, Scud didn't look like he washed his hair, and he still looks like he doesn't wash his hair.
Oh, and also I just got to say before we get too sidetracked, I love a good like military vest on characters. So Blade pulls off that vest like it's remember in Universal Soldier when Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren are wearing those vests, and then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando with that badass vest.
Yeah.
Like what are they called? Like I don't know what they are, but I just love a good sleeveless vest.
Well, you know what? I think the Commando one, if I'm not mistaken, I think was just LBE. So I think he was just rocking like an LBE with no shirt on or whatever, and then or it could have been like it might have been a bulletproof vest, but I think that was how you showed how badass you guys were in those movies back then in the 90s. You had to have guns showing, you had to have a giant gun, and you were ready to wreck some, stuff. You were just ready to go off.
Did you see how jacked Donnie Yen was in this movie? There's a scene.
Wait, can we talk about Donnie Yen?
Yeah, there's a scene. I'm sorry, Donnie. In this movie where they're about to go in a door, and he's flexing. He's obviously flexing for the camera, but I have never seen Donnie Yen that jacked. Like, so I love the Ip Man franchises. I've covered it in Rotten Tomatoes. I made sure it got in there in an Action Franchise article. Huge fan of his. He's fighting Scott Adkins in Ip Man 4, I mean, that's Scotty Axe is like my homeboy. I love that guy. But he's jacked in this movie. And also, I love when he does like the double tap on his chest and he hits his chin, then he does the point. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's the signature right there when he runs up and goes, pa, 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 pa. Like, so I love Donnie Yen, right? I've been a big old school Chinese martial arts film fan my whole life growing up. So I have a lot of his older movies, a lot of his classic movies. And when I found out he was in Blade 2, I was like, what? Like I think at the time I was the only person in my friend group who knew who Donnie Yen was, and I was like, oh my God, Donnie Yen's going to be in Blade 2. And they were like, oh, okay. Yeah, Donnie Yen. And nobody knew who he was. And I'm just like, what? Donnie Yen's the man. So when I saw him and when he, in that scene when, when they're in the club and he runs up and he does the kick.
Oh, yeah, the double kick or triple kick.
Oh, I was like, the triple kick. He was like, blah, blah, and then he sits there. I'm just like, oh my God, it's Donnie Yen.
And then he does the point. He does the point at the guy. He has a sword resting on his shoulder, and he points at the Reaper.
Yeah, and he's just like, bring it, bro.
I'm Donnie Yen.
Like, I like Donnie Yen is the man, and even to this day, he's still badass. He's still making these movies. He's still like doing all the crazy stunt work, and it was just such a pleasure to see him in that movie, and just that scene in itself is such an iconic scene. Like when they all go in after he gets the group together, and they go to the club, and they're just like, all right, we're gonna find this guy, we're gonna wreck shit, and we're gonna go in. And it's just, they all have their scene, they all have their moment where they're just beating ass, and then Donnie comes up and he does that triple kick, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, thank you.
And he would have been in more, but he had to go back to filming on this film. Like, he had to go back to Hong Kong to go shoot a movie. And did you know that this movie ended up shooting for 100 days because Wesley Snipes tore his MCL on a shot that wasn't, like, on a shot he wanted to add at the end of the day, and they're like, oh, well, it's not really necessary. So then they had to recreate a lot of those action scenes. I don't know if you knew that or not. So then that messed up the schedule. So certain actors they had to kill off Donnie Yen really quick. That's why his death is basically off screen. So that, like, it's not like he gets a punk death. They just literally had to do that to get him back to another movie. And you know who I love this whole blood pack. You know, I love that. What's that one guy's name? He's in. Oh, Tony Curran. He ends up popping up in Underworld 2 as the main vampire. He plays Priest. Yeah. And then I miss Matt. Shove, the Chupa, because he was in. Remember in 2001, Fast and the Furious, right? He was that dude in Fast and the Furious. And then he pops up in Torque, that movie Torque with a mullet. And then he's the bad guy in Transporter. And he was also in Blade 1. He played a henchman who got a couple lines, got his arm cut off. Then he went and put on 70 pounds of muscle and came back to Blade 2. Oh, wow. And no one even knew it. So if you watch Blade 1, at the end, that big fight, he's one of the guys who gets a couple lines, gets his arm cut off. So if you see him in Blade 2, he's jacked. Like, he's probably, 230 maybe in this film? Because he's like 6'2", so he was looking, like, huge in that. So he put on they said he put on 70 pounds of muscle. That's a lot. Maybe he put on, like, 40 pounds, but he got jacked for this. And so he's in Blade 1 and 2.
That's hilarious.
Maybe his twin brother was killed by Blade, and then he was training to kill Blade because of that.
Because of that, and he knew that he had to train in order to defeat the Blade, because if he didn't, the Blade would just take him out.
Oh, that blows my mind. Hey, let's do something. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more Blade 2. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks, and I gotta tell you something. When the Reaper was eating Priest, did you notice the stuff coming out of its back? And do you know what that symbolized?
What, that, like, gushy, like, no, I don't know what it symbolized. What did it symbolize?
Del Toro is basically like it eats and shits at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And they said that he was just, Del Toro wanted that. So Goyer, during the commentary, he's like, watch this scene, Wesley. He's like, yeah, the thing eats, and then it excretes all the stuff it doesn't need through its back. So it's eating and crapping.
Wow.
And Goyer is also really funny during the commentary. You know when they all go down through that tunnel? Goyer's he's like, if you watch every Del Toro movie, he's like, you'll see that Del Toro loves vaginas. And he said that he was on set with Del Toro, and Del Toro's like, look at that over there. Like, he did a much better accent. He's like, that's a vagina. So I guess Del Toro designed sets to make it look like those things. And then Del Toro admitted it. And then Del Toro also, he's like, one thing I have in every movie are jars of things. So in that Damaskinos, his lair, he had jars of dead things in jars. Just because Guillermo del Toro loves jars of dead things. So there's a lot of weird Del Toro things in this movie. And I had watched this movie for years, and I just thought it was a fun action romp, which it's a brainless. Like, I know a critic, get this, a critic complained about this. They're like, the movie is just one action scene, Blade talking, and then another action scene. I'm like, what's wrong with that?
No, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm like, it's one action scene, and if you think about it, a lot of the action scenes don't really hold up. So the first one, you have a very... Okay, did you like the first action scene with the motorcycles, or did you find it boring?
So thinking back to the young me that watched that movie, the younger me, right? That first action scene, I wasn't, like, over the moon for. I didn't dislike it either, but I just looked at it like, okay, they're introducing Blade again, right? They're showing us how badass he is with this scene, and this is just going to be like a taste of what to come. So that's the way I kind of viewed it then. And even now, like, watching it, the thing that doesn't hold up is just the visual effects for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you watch that scene now, with all the great leaps and bounds that we've made technologically with visual effects, it pulls you out of it a little bit. But I never disliked the scene either. But again, it wasn't like that first scene in the first Blade, that to me is an iconic scene.
Iconic. Yeah, at the end, right? That fight scene?
Yeah, it's just so much in that's so memorable about it. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, this is super memorable. Oh, it was just like, oh, okay. They're introducing them. They're showing them how bad it is. They're like taking it up a notch from Blade 1. That's how I viewed it. Oh, they took it up a notch a little bit. And then this is just introducing them. And then we're going to see some more stuff. Hopefully that gets better. And it did,
The only time I almost fell asleep while watching this movie is when the motorcycle henchman misses. And then he turns around the motorcycle very slowly.
Yeah.
It's like he drives past Blade and he's like, like Blade just could have stabbed him and walked behind him. I don't know. That scene is the only thing I don't like. And then the next one with Nisa and Assad when they attack Blade, when they attack his domicile.
Yeah.
So, like all they have to do is deliver a message and then a massive fight scene. But Nisa and Assad are so powerful in that scene. And then the rest of the movie, Nisa really isn't anywhere near that level.
Now, all right, so it's funny that you say that because, again, this is something I find, it's like unfortunate that they tend to do this to female characters in movies, but like, she was only strong when you didn't know she was a woman per se. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the minute you find out, oh, she's a woman, oh, she's not nearly as strong or nearly as formidable as she was in when you first see them. Because like you said, when you first see them, they're beating everybody's ass in there. And then when the reveal happens and you see it's a female, it's a woman, like they downgrade her a little bit, throughout.
She had the knife right to Blade's, balls. Like she had him dead to rights.
Yeah, dead to rights. Yeah.
It was like a stalemate. And then her brother just kidnaps her. I mean, she had those cool scenes in the tunnels, which I kind of loved, where she was just wiping people out. And I thought Ron Perlman looked badass there. But yeah, no, you're right, man. It was kind of weird that she fought Blade to a standstill, then the rest of her character, she just kind of walked around. And they were actually making like Blade, I don't know, in the commentary, Goyer and Wesley Snipes hated that little gold thing around her neck. And it was kind of like, it's cringe inducing now. They're like, I wish you would have taken that off and like unbuttoned her shirt a little bit. Like, there's like, she needs to be more feminine. I'm like, geez Louise, guys. And then Wesley's like, he said everyone wanted to be more Trinity at that part. So I guess when they were auditioning actresses, they all wanted to be Trinity from The Matrix. And I never found anything wrong with that. But yeah, no, so then you had that scene where she was super powerful. And then you have the blood pack where they're unloading thousands of bullets at these things. And they're like, oh yeah, we can just kill them with light. But no, don't get me wrong though. I love these fight scenes. I really do.
Yeah, no, they're great. But you know what? And I think too, that speaks to like when he adapts these like comic book films, it's like he doesn't hit the mark a lot of the times in the way that it needs to be hit. So like with Nissa's character, like you said, she starts out at one point and then like when you find out she's she's downgraded, and I think sometimes he has a tendency to kind of he doesn't put that thing in there that makes the characters, that makes you like them, that makes them unique. You know what I mean? And I think too that's a big thing that's more common in, I feel, maybe American cinema. And I think that's why I like anime and manga so much, because they're not afraid to have like strong female leads, not be very pigeonholed into like a stereotypical trope kind of situation. Like when you look at Ghost in the Shell as a prime example of like a very, not the Scarlett Johansson version, people. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the anime version of the movie. The character is multidimensional, even though she's a robot, and she knows she's a robot, but she knows that she's questioning her existence based around this world that she lives in that's so technologically advanced, and the fact that she knows, like, it's just something that you don't see too often in American portrayals of female characters. I think they're getting better with it lately, with a lot of the characters.
Just not Black Widow.
Yeah.
Oh, Rita Vertasky, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, yeah.
And then Mad Max Fury Road. And also I think Cameron, too, man, with Ripley, with Avatar, even True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis's character later on. And like Speed with Sandra Bullock. I mean, she didn't fight, but she was also... Remember how rare that character was in 94, Bullock's character? She wasn't a damsel in distress or anything. And you notice all those movies make absolute bank. So it's kind of interesting how a lot of movies haven't figured that out quite yet.
Exactly. They haven't figured that out. And then I think that's something that, like I said, they're getting better. We're getting better at, with the filmmaking and the portrayals of strong women leads. But unfortunately, when you go back and watch a lot of these movies, it gets a little cringy because you're just like, ooh, why did they do that? That wasn't necessary.
Yep.
They could have left that alone. They didn't have to change her up that much.
And what I think hurt Del Toro a little bit was he really wanted to make this a Shakespearean family drama so in the commentary, he saw Nomak as the hero. And Nomak has a lot of hero shots in this movie. And then at the end, he wanted it to have like an incestuous relationship between father, daughter, and brother. And so you gave up on Nisa being an absolute badass. She just becomes this kind of almost, like what in Hamlet, who's like, oh man, the character from Hamlet, she just kills her, she just jumps off. I can't believe she's less Macbeth and she's more, I can't believe I can't remember the name. But yeah, so I think Del Toro went a little wrong in that direction, making it a family drama between the antagonists. I don't know what you think about that. But
yeah, I agree. I agree because it became like, I feel like the story becomes less, you're more invested in that, and not in a good way than you are with Blade. Like, I want to see more of like Blade, how he's going to resolve this, not so much the family drama between these incestuous kind of relationships between the vampires or not even, they're not vampires in this movie. They're, like hybrid vampires, in this movie. So
some weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it did like detract a little bit for me. And I agree with that. Like, yeah, he missed the mark a little bit, but again, not to cut you off, I think that just goes to show the growth of his filmmaking as well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When you look at a lot of his older work, and you could see the vision, you could see the visionary being like birthed through that early stuff, even when he did miss the mark. So
no, I agree.
As a kid watching that, me seeing, Nissa go from equal with Blade to being not an equal, that didn't cross my mind as a kid. You know what I mean? But
when I was 20, all I cared about were the suplex, the elbow drop, the massive elbow drop,
the chest.
Yeah, the triple kick, the badass point, Ron Perlman being cool.
When he swung the sledgehammer into the
oh yeah, the Reaper's neck and just smushes it.
The Reaper, yeah, when they're fighting in the kitchen or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, Lighthammer smushed that thing's neck. I mean,
and then he popped it back out.
I was 20 when I watched this movie, so I mean, I wasn't thinking family drama. I was just thinking Blade just suplexed the guy.
Exactly.
And Del Toro learned a lot in this movie. Maybe I'll drop a couple of cool, interesting things on you. Also, I learned one thing I didn't even notice, not when I was 20, but I noticed now, and then he talked about it in the commentary. So he flipped the lighting. So during the day, it's very blue, and at night, it's very orange. Normally, during the day, it's orange, and at night, it's a cooler blue. But Del Toro flipped that. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that he did to play with colors. And then also, that big fight scene with the goons. Who hires these goons, by the way? These henchmen, these familiars? I have no clue.
Central casting.
Yeah. And, they only had, like, enough costumes for 10 goons. So they had 10 hero goons, and then they would use the crappier costumes for the goons laying on the ground. And so during a lot of the fight scenes, you'll notice consistency errors because they didn't have enough bodies just to lay on the ground.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was really, but they shot on that all glass surface, and I guess that became a massive nightmare because every scene it got scuffed, and then they'd have to clean it. Del Toro's like, I am never ever doing. He's like, I thought it was a great idea. He's like, but then I realized how stupid it was when we started filming, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, so
that's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious.
You can tell that he's sort of learned a lot about production design. I mean, Shape of Water won an Oscar for Best Production Design with a $20 million budget. So I think he's learned a lot through his movies, just actually, making the mistakes. And it seemed like he made a lot of mistakes on this. I guess there was the scene where Scud is battling the Reapers and he has to get on the light and he's eating Krispy Kremes.
Yeah.
I guess that scene took an exceptional amount of time to film. Even when all the Wolfpack or Bloodpack were getting all their weapons, I guess Chris Christopherson almost rioted. He's like, why the hell am I standing out in this cold? So, Del Toro, I think he really learned a lot on this movie as well, like dealing with actors, getting the shots he wants. Also in Mimic, he was in director's jail after Mimic. And Goyer...
That movie's so good, though.
Goyer took a big chance on him. The Mimic commentary is very good with Del Toro. And what Del Toro did, a reason why this movie was partly 100 days of filming, is there's no second unit. So normally you just send off people to go do car chases and fights with a second unit, but Del Toro had control of all of it because he didn't want to give up control because he hated the second unit work in Mimic.
Gotcha.
It's sort of an evolution of his character. So you have and also I don't know if you watched The Strain, but there were so many ideas in this movie that they couldn't use, and then he didn't make Blade Trinity, which is about a post-apocalyptic world that Blade is fighting in, that he turned it into The Strain, which is about a post-apocalyptic world full of similar-looking vampires.
Oh, wow.
So the extra stuff he didn't use from Blade 2 and what Devil's Backbone got used in The Strain, the book and then the TV show.
That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty cool though, right? That he just reused it. You can tell a Del Toro movie pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, and that's what I love about him. He's like Del Toro is one of my favorite directors because he falls into that category of like a Tim Burton kind of. Like when you see a Tim Burton movie, you know it's a Tim Burton movie. You don't even have to know he directed it, but the minute you watch it, you know he had his hands on it somehow, some way. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Lavish production design, lavish costumes. Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp, right? And I think it's the same with Del Toro, especially like when you look at his current movies, all his set designs and set pieces are just like so immaculate and just so like to the littlest detail. Like they like cover all their bases. You know what I mean? And even when you look at the character designs, like when I think of Pan's Labyrinth, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The character designs in that movie were so dope and so freaky and so cool and so weird. And like that's what you would expect from Del Toro. You know what I mean?
I do think with Pacific Rim, he got too into the design of the characters that not enough work went into the characters or the plot. I don't know how you feel about that.
The first one I think was better than the second one, though.
But there's one hole in the ocean. Why would they build so I know the wall is a metaphor for like, immigration and everything and closing off our borders. Yeah. But it's so clumsy because there's just one hole in the ocean. Why use thousands of men and manpower to build a wall when you could just build a cone that takes the monster to the surface where 8 Jaegers are standing around it on massive platforms stabbing it to death?
Then the movie would end in like 20 minutes, man.
And I know, Del Toro said it. He's like, take logic somewhere else. But sometimes, and I can do that, man. I'm really good at just leaving logic behind. But sometimes it's so glaring for me that I know what he's doing. I know that it's a rock'em sock'em robot movie. Yeah. But it's like, make it a portal that shifts around the world.
I think that's funny you said, because one of the things, especially with when you have these movies that are like I want to say Real Steel, wasn't that the real Real Steel, right? When you have movies like this, Pacific Rim, where we're not known for doing movies that involve mechs per se in America, right? Or whenever we do movies about mech type things or robots, they're kind of chibi and they're kind of cute, or they're kind of more grounded in reality. Not so much in this like, Gundam realm that like Pacific Rim was like kind of.
Yeah.
So when I think the reason he did that was it was playing up on that aspect of, these are giant mechs and I'm just going to make the biggest ginormous mech orgy fest on film that I can pull off.
My wife was like, Mark, a robot hits a monster with an ocean liner. She was like, get over yourself, Mark.
Yeah, like, come on. Like, exactly.
Listen,
So,
I get
like,
it though. I want you to know I get it. Like I own Pacific Rim, but sometimes it's like he puts so much detail into a vampire pooping while he eats that there's core concepts that get missed. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, I feel you. I hear you.
Like in Shape of Water, why did she have to put the creature in a canal? Why didn't she just drive 100 yards up the road and put it in the ocean? They're in Baltimore. Like
that's why, because they're in Baltimore.
But they're on the water. She could have just driven in like 5 minutes and put it somewhere else. Instead, she kidnapped it, fed it eggs, and then it eats cats, which pissed me off. She kidnapped it. Yeah, I wrote a cracked article about that, about how at the end you have Michael Shannon dead, and then you have her missing, and then you also have an MP that was killed during the escape of the creature, and you have these dead Russians. Yeah. So how are like the two characters, Octavia Spencer and Richard Jenkins, going to explain that to the cops? Like, listen, we worked with the Russians in the 1950s. We worked with the Russians to free a monster from a lab, and an innocent guy was killed. And now you see this colonel with his throat slit. That was by a sea monster, but you won't see him because he's in the water.
Well, it's actually, so Doug Jones in real life is a sea monster.
Yeah, great hug, by the way. He gives a great hug.
He does, doesn't he? But like he's a sea monster in real life. So I think if they didn't go that route, there would be more questions. You would have more questions than answers. So the questions that you have are minuscule compared to the questions that would have been if she didn't take those steps.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I do too many data articles.
So exasperated.
It's so annoying. All right, and also, I want to see what you think about this. So during the commentary, they were saying that the Matrix kind of should pay a due to Dark City, Blade, and Gun Fu movies. I don't know what you think about that with the Matrix. Do you think the Matrix was thinking about Blade with those kind of outfits and dark? I see a Dark City resemblance.
All right, so let's be real. All right, everything for the most part in Hollywood is borrowed to a degree, right? When you look at kind of the aesthetic, like, of the Matrix compared to the aesthetic of the Blade, I can see the comparisons, right? You can easily see it. I would say the main difference would be probably the ultra tech, but even then, like you said, even in the first Blade, they had their own technology and their own kind of setup. So like, I can see the comparisons. The Gung Fu thing, did I say Gung Fu?
Yeah, I say Gung Fu too. Very hard boiled John Woo, like John Woo.
Exactly.
There it is. That's easier to say.
Woo, that's what I think of when I think of Gun Fu, right? I think of John Woo. I think of hard-boiled. I think of
hard-boiled. Oh my gosh.
I think of that stuff. You know what I mean? And then even Equilibrium came out like way later, right?
Yep.
Didn't Equilibrium come out like way later after Matrix?
Yeah, that was 2000s. Like that was early 2000s. Yeah.
So even looking at what they did, that was kind of a blatant, like, that was like Matrix Light. You know what I'm saying? Equilibrium was like Matrix 1.5.
The Coke Zero. It's not the Diet Coke, it's the Coke Zero of
Coke Zero, of that universe. So I mean, I could definitely see the comparisons, and again, everything in Hollywood is borrowed to a degree. Like, someone has borrowed, like, Avatar is basically Ferngully in 3D, you know? Yeah. So there's always going to be room to see where those comparisons can be made and where those influences are drawn from. But I think it's how it's done is the difference. Like, I feel like even if it's not outright, like, blatantly stated, like, we're paying homage to these movies, I think you can tell in the way it's shot and the way they present it. So
that's why I love Stranger Things, because they blatantly borrow, but they do it with glee, and they let you know that they're doing it.
Exactly, and you can tell it's from a place of high regard versus like, oh, we're blatantly trying to rip off we're blatantly trying to rip off, you know, all your favorite 80s, you know, childhood memories and present it to you in this package. So I appreciate it when it's done to that degree, you know?
And another thing, Del Toro said this is a 6-pack of beer and a pizza movie. What do you think?
Oh, hell yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and I love that he snuck in little weird things in there too. Like, blending the old with the new, and I kind of dug that. And then, but one thing I don't agree with, I don't want to see what you think. He said that Nomak was he's a hero in the movie. But then they said he is creating this army of, these Reapers, they don't really have much thought, do they? They're more like...
Yeah, they're more like parasitic, or not parasitic, but like more, like he's the parasite and they just follow his commands, basically.
So...
Like symbiotes or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, those movies, we got to kill the queen. He is knowingly creating an army that will wipe out humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see him as a protagonist in this movie the way that Del Toro thinks he is. I mean, he has every right to be pissed off, for sure. But he's not. He's beyond redemption, I believe.
So, all right. So that's an interesting point. All right. So let's flip it, right? Now, granted, it's not on the same level of filmmaking. I think you know where I'm going to go with this. But the Joker, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Joker movie. I was one of the people when I first heard, when it was first announced that they were making the Joker, I was like, really? Joker movie? I don't know about it. I don't care about a Joker movie. And then I saw it, completely flipped on my head, like my own personal kind of ideals when I watch a movie and I think good guy, bad guy, right? Because for all intents and purposes, when you go into this movie, I'm going into it thinking of Joker being a bad guy, or looking for that Joker that I keep making air quotes. So when I put that emphasis on that Joker, that's why I'm doing that. I'm making air quotes. But it's like the Joker that I grew up with, the Mark Hamill Joker, the Jack Nicholson Joker. That's what I kind of went into it expecting. And when I didn't get that, it was like, so wait, is he really the villain now? Of course he's the villain because he's done some like horrible things that he shouldn't have done, but it makes you question it. So I don't think you can flip the character, right? Nomak, you can flip and put it in that same perspective. I don't think it has that same level or that same amount of brevity in terms of like, oh, he was a poor picked on like hybrid vampire and all the other vampires didn't like him type of thing. But I can see where he's trying to make that comparison in terms of like why he thinks he could be the hero, but yeah, he's way off base with that in that instance. I don't know. Do you think he would feel that same way if you asked him that today about the movie?
Well, so they recorded the commentary 10 years after. So they recorded it in 2012. So I guess that's 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
I mean, that'd be interesting to see. I don't know. I do think though that Del Toro does have a thing for the misfits.
Yeah.
And so you could see, even though Nomak is, an absolute world beater, he is kind of a castaway misfit, like a prince thrown away, almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess.
And he's looking for like, at its base, it's like he's looking for his reason, and that's his reason, right? That's his thing. So in that sense, I guess maybe he means it from that standpoint, like he had no purpose, and then he found his purpose, and this purpose was to annihilate humanity because of this. Granted, it's a very, emo way to go about it, but
I should like him more, man. I love all that emo stuff.
Right? I guess that's maybe the mind frame the young Del Toro was coming from. He was a little bit more emo, a little bit more angsty, a little bit more, AFI, I guess if you would.
Hey, Miss Murder. They should have played Miss Murder.
So, yeah, I definitely don't see him as a hero, though, because, yeah, he did some horrible effed up stuff in the movie.
And during the final fight, did you notice that they're fighting in front of a spiral staircase and then another spiral piece of art which represent two separate strains of DNA, and they have different DNA than the rest of the vampires?
No, I did not notice that.
Isn't that Del Toro put that much into it?
That's a fun little Easter egg right there. Note that, people. That's a fun Easter egg to know. And
two of them because they're different. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me happy. And then I just want to read something to you that Roger Ebert wrote because it really made me laugh. You're going to like this. Blade 2 is a really rather brilliant vomitorium of viscera. It's a vomitorium of viscera.
Vomitorium of viscera.
A comic book with dreams of becoming a textbook for mad surgeons. There are shots here of the insides of vampires that make your average autopsy look like a slow afternoon at Supercuts. The movie has been directed by Guillermo del Toro, whose work is dominated by two obsessions: war between ancient enemies and sickening things that bite you and aren't even designed to let go. I love that. And I also love what he wrote. He's attracted to the vampire Nisa, but we sense a relationship between a creature of the night and Blade, known as a Daywalker, is sooner or later going to result in arguments over their work schedules.
That's funny.
Like, Ebert was on fire for this. He gave it 3.5 stars out of 4. He absolutely adored. Yeah, he doesn't give horror movies like this he doesn't typically he loves Deep Blue Sea. He liked Anaconda. He liked this. But a vomitorium of viscera.
I like that. Did he copyright that? A vomitorium of viscera?
That's perfect. Like John Levengood of Movies, Films, and Flicks, that's going to be his new middle name. I think that's his favorite thing he's ever heard.
That is perfect. A vomitorium. That's a good word.
And I also like in this movie, in the first one, the vampires were very wasteful of blood. With the blood rave, I figured out how much blood came out. For an article, I figured out how much blood came out of those sprinklers. It was a lot. Yeah. And in this one, Damastinos has a blood pool. Like, how much do you is it like a jacuzzi? The blood would coagulate, correct?
Yeah. I mean,
is there anticoagulant yada yada?
And then, you couldn't heat it up because that would, maybe he has some blood thinners in there or something, like some blood pressure medication that they mix into the blood, I guess, maybe, and good big batches to keep it. And maybe they have it like on a moderate, like human body temperature setting. So it's probably like a 97 degree temperature setting in the jacuzzi. And, you got the blood thinning medication in there to keep it from coagulating. Coagulation is a no-go. And then, I think they're set. And then, because they had the whole blood bank situation in 2 as well, didn't they?
And there was just blood all over the walls.
Yeah.
Remember they were mopping? And, what happened in that room? Was there just body explosions?
Look, the bodies hit the floor, I'm assuming.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that scene. He's like, I hate vampires. I dug that. And then also, before we get out of here, I just want to bring one thing to you. I think, remember X-Men, how lame the initial fight scenes were? Bryan Singer's X-Men?
Oh, the first one? Oh, my God. It was
so bad.
Oh, speaking of movies that don't hold up, oh, my God. Watching that first X-Men is so hard.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it gets hit by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else when it gets hit by lightning.
Yeah. Oh my God, that shit was fucking.
Joss Whedon wrote that, of course.
So
I mean,
cringy.
Like Robert Downey Jr. Who could pull off that line? RDJ?
I think he could pull. If he could pull it off. I mean,
dude. All right, so Owen Wilson, right? I love the Shanghai New. Owen Wilson could pull that off. Like, in his twang?
Yeah, definitely. That Shanghai, if he's doing that character, definitely. I love the Shanghai franchise, too. I'm upset that they didn't do another one.
They're very underrated. Like, they're all fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're good. They're really good.
Yeah, Shanghai Noon is my favorite. I love that one.
We should talk about that on the pod. That movie deserves a relook.
I'm always down to talk about Jackie Chan. So...
And Lucy Liu's in that, right?
Yes. As the quiet sister.
Between Behind Enemy Lines, Shanghai Noon, and Owen Wilson had a couple other action movies. I liked him as an action star.
I did too. You know what? Not for nothing. I liked Behind Enemy Lines. That was surprisingly, and again, this was before he became a meme type of thing.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, he did. Come on, he became a meme.
But it's with his wows. Wow.
Yeah, with the wow and the whole weird speech pattern thing. But like he played that role damn well. I enjoyed Behind Enemy Lines. He was an underrated action star in the early aughts.
Yeah,
He does
I
what
man,
do.
I dug it. But what I guess with X-Men, what else I was gonna lead to it, but I get sidetracked so easily. What they wanted in this movie, they wanted the fights to be superhero fights, and I think they really accomplished that. When they're falling, remember when they're fighting in the church and they're punching each other when they're falling to the ground?
Oh
And
yeah.
they throw people into walls and it leaves an indentation of the body. And I think this is one of the first movies where there were just superhero
They went for it,
fights.
definitely. Yes. I definitely agree with that. That was something too that they definitely upped the ante on from the first one. Because I feel like in the first one they had those moments, really more so in the last fight scene. It was more of like the superhero fight kind of scene between him and Dorf. But in the second one, you had a lot more of those fights that felt like, oh yeah, these are legit like action superhero scenes. They're throwing each other through, brick walls and, like you said, they're punching each other as they're falling off of the rafters and doing these crazy, like, lands and whatnot. So it definitely felt like that. I definitely feel like, again, the Blade series, the Blade franchise, doesn't get the amount of credit it deserves in terms of what it brought to the table for the comic movie,
And
because
they're all
again,
rotten, and they're all rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. I love Rotten Tomatoes. I write for them, but I don't get how these 1 and 2 are rotten movies.
no, I don't get it at all either. Because
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at what came out during that time, there weren't many movies that comic book adapted movies that held up. I can honestly think of any really sans Blade.
No,
That
like
were memorable. I mean, yeah, you could talk about He-Man and the old Punisher, but they were so campy and so like kind of cheesy. You didn't take it seriously. Even as a kid, I didn't take Masters of the Universe serious. So
hey,
when
Dolph was in both of those.
he was, and I just realized that as I said that. The legend Dolph Lundgren. But yeah, I don't feel like Blade has ever got the props it deserved. And I'm hoping with this next entry that they're bringing to the franchise that not only do they I'm looking for them to add to the mythos of Blade, take a little bit more from the comics, which I'm pretty sure they will, because that seems to be the thing that Marvel has kind of done really well and stuck to by not taking everything, but taking just enough and adapting just enough to where it makes us comic nerds happy, and it is a good entry point for like the non-comic book person.
No, absolutely, man. Mahershala, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Like I said, after seeing his performance in Alita is what is actually leading me to think he could be a good Blade successor. And I honestly, I have my theories on what they're going to do, and if they do what I think they're going to do, I have a theory on what I think this new Blade movie is going to be about. So I'm interested to see. I'm waiting to hear a little bit more as the news comes out. All right. So here's a question for you: do you want to see a buff Blade, or do you want to see like a hipster kind of? I don't know if you're familiar with DC Comics New 52. They reintroduced Lobo, a character Lobo.
Oh, Lobo, yeah.
So when they reintroduced Lobo in the New 52, they made him this like emo, like angsty, like it just wasn't the character. It
like
was
a Keanu, like a Keanu Constantine.
Exactly. It's perfect comparison. Just think that Keanu Reeves Constantine with like, a chain hook, some red eyes, and like a tight vest. They made him like real emo and not like cool. So do you want to see Mahershala get like buff and ripped, or do you want to see him be like regular, like hipster-y style Blade?
He's gonna get. I mean, every Marvel, like Paul Rudd got buff and ripped So I'm thinking, he's gonna get jacked up. I think he's gonna. Man, I would love like Mahershala acting like Keanu Reeves in a Blade movie. So let's hope for that. That's what I want. If he does that, that's what I want.
All right. If he does that, we'll see. But
it's gonna be PG-13 though, so he's probably just gonna be a buff dude that can fit in with.
Are they hard set on the PG-13 rating?
I mean, it's Disney, right?
Yeah, but
it's MCU. It's MCU.
True. If it is,
if it's R, then you can't be on Disney Plus. If it's R, you know what I mean?
That's the only other thing though that worries me too. That's the only thing that worries me because it's like, okay, PG-13 to me as a 13-year-old, what I tolerated is way less than what's accepted on film. So when I think of PG-13 Blade, I don't know. That's the one worry. If it's, I'm hoping Disney doesn't own Warner Brothers, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet. They don't own any subsidiaries of Warner Brothers or DC Comics or anything or nothing like that, right?
So I don't know. So I put my money on a PG-13.
They own Fox, and Deadpool was a R movie. And and I know that they did get rid of a lot of the studios, but they kept some of those studios, and I believe they kept the studio that made Deadpool. So if they did that, they could shift that over to that Fox imprint, and it could be a hard R.
Oh, I mean, they would have to do Touchstone, right? Stuff exactly like you just said.
Yeah, it would have to be a lot of paperwork. It would have to be it would kind of be the similar situation to the Spider-Man setup, right? Where Sony, they knew if they didn't get back into that MCU with the Spider-Man, it was Sony doesn't have the potential yet to make a standalone Peter Parker Spider-Man movie. They changed the game with the Spider-Verse. They took
good.
Majorly, hands down, one of my favorite Spider-Man movies to date.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
So if they can, I think if they do one more movie with, Marvel, they'll get a little bit more, they'll learn a little bit more, and then they'll be able to do their own standalone. But I think it'll be that same kind of process. They'll have to kind of figure out the rights and the ways they can do it and switch. If they can switch it over to that Fox imprint, then maybe we can get an R-rated Blade movie. So we'll see.
I just think they want it on Disney Plus.
I mean, I don't know.
Money. At the end of the day, they're money, right?
Basically, I haven't jumped into the Disney Plus pool yet, so I'm not sure what I'm missing out on.
Mandalorian, dude.
I did see those though. I did see the 2 episodes. I saw 2 of it so far. So I am looking into subscribing. They are sending me the free things through my TV already. So
nice.
This trial, the 7-day trial or whatever.
But no, man, this was fun, dude. Thanks for joining me and picking this movie. I know everything about Blade 2 now.
Oh no, thank you for having me. I'm so glad I got to pick it because when you gave me those choices, it was a legit. You and your damn picks, man. You drive me insane with those picks online too.
That's what I have to do.
I can't pick just one. They're all great movies in their own way, in their own space, in their own right. But
yeah, I got a mustache one coming up soon. New mustache tournament.
Oh.
For November. And then I'm ending December with a the best comic book movie from 2010 to 2019. I have 36 movies ready to go in a tournament.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be crazy.
But so are you going to do the board or are you going to just do a specific, just Marvel?
Oh, no, I picked all of them. But the 36, the highest rated 36 are going against each other. And, I mean, well, yeah, highest rated 36. And then I think I threw in Man of Steel just because it's huge. And it should be on the list.
I don't understand the hate Man of Steel gets. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. The more I think about Man of Steel, the more I like it. Because, yes, he damaged buildings, but he's trying to save billions by killing thousands. And then he put him into Smallville because he knew his senses were messed up and he had a better chance of beating him. And also, who cares? Like, everyone complained about Batman killing people in Batman vs Superman, but Michael Keaton wiped people out in Batman and Batman Returns. Like, if you mess with Keaton, you'll get a beating. And so, just look at Man of Steel as a graphic novel of it. Just how many spin-offs of Superman have there been that people love? But then you make a movie that's essentially the same thing and people hate it.
Yeah, I didn't get the hate it got. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was highly entertaining. I loved it wasn't like a Return of Superman kind of take to it. And when Return of Superman came out, I watched it. I enjoyed it for what it was. But again, it's one of those movies when you go back and rewatch it, you're just like, ooh, they didn't have to do that. They could have went a different way with that. So I'm just hoping the same happens to Blade. They reinvigorate the franchise, and I think adding him to the MCU will definitely add something, a little something that it hasn't been in the MCU yet.
Yeah,
maybe.
And another Oscar winner, 2-time Oscar winner.
True that. Excuse me. I'm about to sneeze.
Hey, bless you.
But yeah, I think like call it the Wolverine effect or something, but I think having Blade in MCU is going to bring that kind of rawness that it hasn't been in the MCU yet, that we haven't seen really with any of the MCU characters, because they've been generally lighter movies. They haven't been, as dark as the MC or DC EU movies, with the exception of like Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
I love Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, I loved Wonder Woman. I want to say I loved Aquaman. I enjoyed Aquaman. I thought it was good. The acting left a little to be desired, but it was a good movie. I enjoyed it a lot.
So many people die. At the end when he's making out with Amber Heard, thousands of his people are being murdered.
Yeah. It's a fun movie though. It's a fun time.
Yeah, it's a lark. It's a lark.
But I really am looking forward to seeing what they can bring, how they can reinvigorate the Blade franchise, and what stories they're going to bring to it, how they're going to change it up, especially on the technology front with the visual effects. How are they going to change? If they're going to do vampires again, what type of vampires? How are they going to look? So I'm really interested in seeing what the conceptualizing part of this movie is going to be.
Well, how about this? After it's on in 2022, you come back and we'll record an episode about it.
I'm down. Yeah.
You'll be back before then, but I'll pencil you in for Blade too when it comes out, and we can see how right or wrong we were. How's that sound?
Definitely.
Awesome.
I'm always game.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me, man. This was a lot of fun.
It was, man. I really enjoyed myself. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So for Mark Hoffmeyer and for Kai, aka Philly Trainer, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.
Peace.